How about that?
You know what? That takes a lot of pressure off,
It
right?
does. Woo.
Because we can just sit back and have girl talk like we always do and get into
That's right.
these fun conversations, just the two of us. And then somebody, they can all listen in later.
There you go. I absolutely love it. So, all right, Miss Bullen,
Yes,
you at
ma'am.
22 years old, you started out in HR.
Yes, that was. I was just as shocked as everybody else on that one.
So how does, okay, so you were born and raised in Connecticut.
Hmm.
You went to school in Connecticut and
Yeah,
how did you get to San Diego? What's the backstory?
that's my husband behind me. That's the
Hey, husband.
backstory. Pam says hi. So I actually went to school in Virginia, and I was going to university, and my big plan was is I was going to be a midwife. I wanted to deliver babies. That's what I wanted to do.
Oh,
Babies. And so I was in nursing school, and I did my second rotation in a pediatric oncology ward. And it was over a summer, and it went extremely wrong.
wow.
And we lost two patients, and it
Mhm.
was just, I mean, I
Wow.
get teared up just thinking about it now. I mean, I just really knew that that wasn't something that I could do. And
Mhm.
I didn't, and nurses are superhuman beings and just deserve so much praise. And I didn't have it in me. So um, I had to, I left work one day, and I pulled over on the side of the road because I had to get sick. I was so upset, and I went straight to my dean of admissions and said, "This isn't gonna work. I need to switch." But I didn't have money to keep going to school, so how do I still graduate on time?
Oh,
And the gentleman said, "Well, I mean, the only thing you can graduate with is a biology degree, and that's pretty worthless." That's what he said.
wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
thank goodness I didn't listen to him.
Right.
And I graduated, and I moved back home for a little while, like some people do. And then I realized I needed to hurry up and get the heck out of Dodge, right? So
Yes.
um, I moved to San Diego by myself, didn't know anyone, packed up my little car and drove across the country with my best friend Molly, and landed here, and the rest is history.
Oh my gosh. All right. So so you take your biology degree. Tell
Mhm.
me about biology and HR.
Well, so I did a first quick stint in the lab with the pipettes, and anyone who's ever done their first stint in a lab knows that you literally just do this all day, and that was whoa, I and with nobody in there, all by myself, and I'm way too social for that, and I need human
Mhm.
interaction. So I actually had a friend of mine that worked for a recruiting firm that was starting a scientific division, and they said, well, you have a science background, help us figure this out. And so I did, and I did that for a hot second, and that was great experience. Um, and then I got recruited from my biggest client, which was a company that was a startup back in the day called Invitrogen. And this was back in the day when it was, super small. Today it's Thermo Fisher. It was Life
Wow.
Tech, and now it's Thermo Fisher. But right at young 20s, I
Yeah.
thought it was totally normal that there was keggers every Friday at the company. Totally normal.
Who don't want that lifestyle, right? Early 20s, like this is the life.
Right. And so I was recruiting, and that's in human resources. So all of a sudden I'm in this human resources department, and there I was, and that's how it started.
Wow. So
Hmm.
today you're sitting in a lovely restaurant in
Yes.
Costa Rica.
Yes.
And so you're back to roots, we could sort of say, in some
Hmm.
ways. So make the connection for me, because when I talk about you to other people, and I'm always talking about you, I say, you know what, Brandy's like a serial entrepreneur. She is a bad, bad, bad woman. She's done some phenomenal things, and she started out in HR. So how does so there's so many questions I have for you, but how does your HR experience sort of play into being, the CEO of such a thriving biotech firm?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Pam, because I've been thinking, someone asked me this recently. Someone said, you're not technical, but
Mm,
you're running a technical consulting firm. And I've been surrounded by technical, and I've built technical teams, and I've managed technical teams. But that person was absolutely right. And to answer your question, I think my HR background was ideal for what I'm doing today,
oh,
because what it taught me was how to identify talent. And that's the biggest thing that I do,
mhm,
is identify the right talent, understand what they're good at, and let them do what they're good at, instead of trying to get them to do something that they're not good at.
yeah, yeah. Do you find that, and having, met so many of your current employees, I totally, agree. I'm totally aligned with that, right? So people are just like, yeah, right. I totally vouch for you. And so then one of the things that I notice is your organization is very entrepreneurial, and that sort of um, drive just doesn't happen. It's like identifying entrepreneurial talent versus people who are used to doing the same old thing the way they did it, in the last company and the last company and the last company. How do you help them make the transition? Because you have such a strong entrepreneurial edge to you, that for newbies, that's got to be a bit of a challenge. What do you mean I can do what I do?
Yeah.
How do you coach that? How do you manage that?
Well, in the beginning, it can be tough for some people,
Mhm.
right? Because, quite frankly, some of them don't know me, so they don't know that I mean it, right? And
Mhm.
if that trust isn't there yet, I've got to earn that trust. And I think it helps that I'm not technical,
Mm,
because I get the hell out of the way
yeah.
and I let them do it. So it's a little bit, you know, jumping in that pool, you know, right out of the gates, because I need them to be that technical person at these meetings and at these presentations, and going into clients and starting these new projects. I have to rely on them. And
Yeah.
so I think when I show my vulnerability, right, and show them that, listen, I really need you to help me with this, because technically this part is going to be over my head.
Yeah.
So please back me up and help me out. And I think that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you are so like think about, this is your third firm. You have, is this the third one? Third
No,
firm?
no, this is really the first one that I've started.
Started, okay.
So there was, it's, it took a couple times to kind of get the momentum going, but this was really the first one. But where you're getting that from is that I have other entities that are more charity based that I've started,
Mhm.
but this is the only one for profit. The rest are really being driven, and they're kind of shoot offs of Sequoia, um, on the giving back
Okay.
end of
Okay.
it.
Talk to us a little bit, because I'm jumping all over the place, but I'd love for you to talk about Sequoia, and let's give everyone a good sense of what Sequoia is about and what you're doing and all the cool things that are happening there.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So about 8 years ago, we started Sequoia. And I think in the beginning, I thought it was going to be a little lifestyle business, right? I imagined, half a dozen, maybe a dozen employees. And essentially, through my career in biotech, I kept going from, not a lot of different firms. I was with Invitrogen for a while, and obviously we went through some massive growth. And then I went to another small startup called IDAC, and we were less than 200 people, and we experienced some massive growth there and became Biogen IDAC. And then ultimately we were purchased by Genentech, and then we were purchased by Roche. So I worked for the same person for those 8 years, but the name kept changing. So saw massive growth, and then I left there and went to a small startup called Illumina, when we were less than 200 people there, and now they're, I don't even know how big they are right now, but so I've always been attracted to these startups. I love startups. I love wearing many hats. I love, being able to build teams and attack projects. But what I found was I kept hiring the same people over and over again, and they're project junkies. So when I started Sequoia, I was going to take some of those people, some of the folks that, I know and love and worked with for years, and put them together in a team where we go from client to client to client and execute on those projects. And those projects had everything to do regarding GMP regulated facilities. So we would take on um, anything from lab build outs to getting ready for an FDA audit, the documentation associated with it, the process validation, the equipment validation, the project management of these big projects, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened was, um, you know, I had my core team of 6 people that we were just going to do every project and go together from team to team. But my phone kept ringing, and people kept saying, I really need Debbie. Debbie's a fantastic engineer on my team, and who's built amazing facilities, biotech facilities. And I hate saying no. I hate saying no.
Right.
But I'd have to say, I'm sorry, I have Debbie on a project. She's not going to be available for at least 18 months. And they'd say, well, do you have anybody like Debbie?
Oh.
So it was like feeding a
Yeah.
beast. So I said, well, okay, let me find you somebody, because I hate saying no, right? And
Right.
I hate turning my business.
Mhm.
And then the flip side of that is that um, the folks on my team were project junkies, right? And then we also love big, sexy projects.
Yes.
So my team members, who I need to keep happy so they stay with me forever,
Hmm.
um, they'd say, I really want that project over there. And I'd
Yeah.
be like, okay, I'll go get it. I'll go get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would go after it, and then I would get it. And then I needed to hire more people to execute on it, because I didn't really have enough people to do it.
Right. It's like, one of my mentors said to me a couple of years ago, he said, Pam, do you have everything that you want in life? Are you satisfied and ready to retire? And I said, well, no. He said, well, you can't afford to say no. So get your butt out there and get to working. And the work just kind of comes, which leads me to another question, because you were saying the phone kept ringing. So do you live in social media? How did you get the phone to keep ringing for all of those entrepreneurs out here who are, busting their butts to be successful and to grow their business, to get the phone to ring? What's the secret in the sauce?
Oh, you're not going to like my answer. I didn't do any social media. This is probably one of the first live videos I've ever done for anybody. I'm actually very shy, or I'm afraid of. No, I'm getting
No.
really good at it. But
Yes, you are. Yeah.
public speaking's not always been something that I've liked to do, and social media has never been something that I was good at. However, for those, the secret sauce for me was not me.
Mhm.
The secret sauce for Sequoia has really been, I hired the right people, and those people were well known within our industry. And it's been the first 7 years was word of mouth and referrals. It was doing a good job, sometimes taking a hit,
Yeah.
right? Taking a hit
Yeah.
when I needed to, because if I was going to really be awarded that project, I knew I wasn't going to make anything off of it, but then I could say that I did it,
Yeah.
right? So I needed some street cred.
Hmm.
Um, and then, you know, I think a lot of it was taking a hit financially on some projects, but also from a technical perspective, never letting okay be enough.
Mm. Okay.
Even if it meant, you know, I always wanted the client to be overly impressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Going, like, really going the extra mile for the client. So it's more than not saying no. It's, rolling out the red carpet, making sure that the client has everything the client needs. And that word of mouth marketing, it's amazing. I was joking with someone the other day, but I really wasn't joking. And I said, people think that I love the camera, but I'm not that person. I really get really anxious around it. But I said, you know what? I just would, I don't know if I get any business from social media. I just think I'm going to come completely out of it for a little while and just do what I do. And I would be okay with that. And I think some people think like that's a cuss word to say you're not going to be a social media, but it's all about the relationship, and it's
Mm-hmm.
about delivering on what you say you're going to do, really delivering on your brand promise.
Yeah.
And that's really the secret, is what I hear you saying as
Yeah.
well. What about being a woman in such a male dominated world? Bio.
You know, it's been interesting. Yeah, when I started my career and I was in human resources, that was actually there was quite a few women in human resources. That was the most female populated department actually in any of the companies that I ever worked with
Yeah.
was HR. But I didn't really I wasn't really embedded in HR when I worked in HR. I was really embedded into the operations, and that's how I supported my clients. So I've always been embedded in operations group and quality groups and that kind of thing, where it really was, highly male dominated. So I think there's been some, I could think of some examples where, you know, um, people might have walked into the room and I was the only female sitting at the table and they assumed I was there to take notes. It's happened.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
not going to say it never happened.
Right.
Um, but to be honest, I think it's actually helped in that there was so fewer women than males. I stuck out.
Yes.
So people remember me.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
when people remember you, it's easier, right? To build a relationship because they recognize you. It's not like they see you, 6 months later and they don't recognize you at all. They're like, oh yeah, you're that girl who was in the yes, that was me.
That was me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't, clearly not easily offended by being the girl that they
No.
recognized. It was just the fact that they recognized and remembered you. So you leveraged being the only girl or the only woman in the room to get that next opportunity and to grab the next deal.
I really did. I feel like, I've presented at numerous, conferences that were women led, Athena, and things like that. And, I think the audience wanted me to say, it's negatively impacted my career, but I do not believe that's true. I think I embraced it and I used it for what I needed to use it and when I needed to use it. And I
yeah.
used it in my favor. And I think most people can. That doesn't mean that everyone can.
Right. Right.
It
And
doesn't mean that it
doesn't
won't,
go ahead.
it doesn't mean that it didn't hurt me in some aspects.
Well, but I mean, you kind of, I was speaking with another person, who's a therapist the other day, and they were saying, people always think of conflict as bad or things that happen to you in your life as bad. It's really what you do with it,
Yeah.
that's bad. He said you need those kinds of experiences to move you forward, to shake you up and say, do something. And it's when we go internally, or we go inside and we make it a mess, that it becomes more of a mess. It's like, what are you going to do with this mess that's been dropped in your lap? You can roll over and die with it, or you can do something with it. you decide. And it sounds like you decide every single time, something comes your way, you make something of it and not focus on the it.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, good.
Actually, it's been, I actually do better when someone tells me I can't do something.
Yeah, yeah.
Then it's like 100% I'm going to do it.
Get out
That
of
is
the
going
way.
to get out of my way. This is going to happen. I went to college because my dad told me, my stepdad said, "Yeah, I have a twin brother.
Mhm.
I've got to pay for your twin brother to go to school. So unfortunately, you can't go to university, and because you'll never be able to pay for it yourself." And that was just,
Oh, yeah, right. That's all you needed.
yeah, no problem. Got this. I love proving people wrong.
Oh, I know. I know. I remember someone saying to me when I was in corporate, you wouldn't survive without the mic. You need to be on someone's stage. And well, 10 years later, hello,
Hmm.
yeah, get out of my way, throw me something, tell me that I can't do it and watch me do it.
Exactly.
So congratulations on thriving in the midst of uh, all of that and then some. I want to help. I know there are a lot of HR folks that will watch this who HR folks get this bad rep as being non-business savvy people. And it could be any aspect of the business that they really are, one track pony. They only know HR. They only speak HR easy. No business. They don't know finance. They don't know business models. What do you say to those individuals who feel like they too want to advance their careers, maybe become a CEO, maybe move into another part of the business? What do you say to them? What are some things that they need to be thinking about or doing if they want to have sort of the same kind of trajectory that you did?
Well, this might be a controversial answer on this one, but I hope people know that it's out of love and experience and trust, and not because I'm throwing stones. But there's a lot of people in human resources that think their job is to protect the organization and be a police officer, right, of sorts, and to say no.
Yeah, right.
And no, 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 no. And I've seen it in my career, and I don't think that that's the role of human resources at all.
Mm,
I
mm,
think the role of human resources is to understand the business. So, one of my first managers, her name's Jamie, and she said, "I don't want you to be sitting with human resources. I want you to be sitting in operations."
wow.
And I was 24 years old and nervous about it, but excited about it at the same time. And that's how I really did it, with sitting with the team and understanding what they're doing and how they're doing it and what trials and tribulations they have and what was keeping them up at night and what resources did they not have that they needed, and really kind of embedding myself, right, and then taking over. Your project management hat comes out, and you start helping with the projects, and then you got to worry about cost control, and then you got to learn about the finance piece of it to be able to help with that. And so yeah, just really jumping in and embedding yourself in the business, know what the business objectives truly are.
Yeah. So for someone who's got a department of HR folks and they're all got their own wing of the building or floor or something like that, but their own section, how do they do that if the culture of the organization says you stay in your space and we come get you when we need you? How do they insert themselves, I think?
Well, I think they have to probably prove themselves to their clients, right? So their clients are advocating for them to be a part of the business.
Mhm.
And that's usually the senior leaders outside of human resources. And then I think it really depends on the philosophy and of the leaders of HR.
Mhm.
If the senior leaders of HR aren't, you know, advocating for it, it's going to be really hard. And it might not be the company that they can do that.
Mhm. That's
And
good.
You got to recognize that. If that's really where you're at, move on, because there is companies that you can.
Hmm. You use the term clients when you talk about HR and you talk about the internal leaders. Where is that coming from for you?
Well, so every organization I've ever worked in has been a biotech manufacturing organization. And in my opinion, we're all clients to um, whoever's getting the product to the patients.
Mm,
So there's internal clients, there's external clients, there's, what is it going to take to get it done? And um, a lot of the times in the businesses that I've worked in, the companies I worked, the client was manufacturing because they needed to get what they needed to get the product out the door. So it was in the hands of the patients to take care of the patients.
yep. And you had to understand, like, I mean, it really all goes back to the business. And when you see someone internally as a client, you treat them differently, right?
Yes.
You treat
Yes.
them differently. That's a different mindset. That really is customer service. It's one thing to say we're a customer service department, but you don't see those individuals as customers. It's what you do that for them and on their behalf that speaks to whether or not you see them as a customer and whether or
Yeah.
not they feel that
you know that makes me think about how I'm running this business, and that I fully understand that my business as a consulting company, we don't have a product.
way.
We don't make a widget. Our product are our employees. And if I lose one of my employees, that's my asset.
Yeah,
So each and every single one of my employees are my biggest priority, because if I keep them happy and I make sure that they're taken care of, they will take care of our clients.
yeah, yeah,
So that focus on client, I don't use the word client in my employees. They're more of my family and my team. But they're also, almost like a client, in that I have to treat them like a client, make sure that they're happy and that they're taken care of and that they're whole and they have everything that they need.
yeah. How, you and I, we were working together through this whole George Floyd murder and all of that. And I know we talked, about there, when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and tapping into diverse talent, I was honestly surprised that you had such a large number of diverse employees throughout, the organization, different levels, those who are moving into leadership. What do you say to people who say, well, in that industry, they're not out there, or in our industry, they're not out there, when you've clearly proven women, people of color, I mean, you've proven that not to be the case. So what's, again, secret, how do you get them? How do you attract and let them know, hey, I'm hiring and I'm a diverse and an inclusive employer?
Well, I think it's kind of like those people who say, oh, I don't have any African American friends.
Yeah,
Well, if you don't hang out with anyone that's African American, you're not going to be friends with them,
right.
right? It's the same thing in a business. You have to go to, if you don't open yourself up to a world where there is diversity and inclusion,
Yeah,
and embed yourself around people like minded,
yeah,
yeah, you're going to end up in that group of, you know, non-diverse
yes,
individuals,
yes,
and
right.
everybody has a bubble.
Hmm.
And if you stay in a bubble that is non-diverse, yeah, you're not going to find anybody of color. Yeah, you're
Right.
not going to find people of diverse backgrounds and experiences, because they're all going to be the same people.
Yes, yes. So, and it's not just for the HR team. This is for everyone to, expand their network, to connect. I know you tap into your staff at all different levels. who's the next up and comer, who's hot out there. You're really out there having these conversations, and then you're empowering your leaders and your staff to tap other people, because people will follow people that they know, they like, and they trust. And so, hey, you're over there, must be okay. I'll come over there too. So it's not even just you, it's empowering and equipping your teams, your staff, your leaders to be in other circles and to curate the best talent, and bring it in.
Yeah. And my senior leaders are all in
Yeah, yeah,
on this.
yeah.
They are 100% in, and they're very passionate about it. So if you have a team of senior leaders that all want this,
Yeah.
it will come,
Yep. Yep.
and they truly do.
But you set the tone. You set, if you weren't, and I mean, I think this is part of it too, because I've spoken with a number of organizations, and they want to infuse, let's sprinkle here and there, and the real question is, well, what's happening at the top? And in one instance, I was told, well, we don't want to start at the top. We really want to start, and make it bottom up. And I'm like, well, that isn't gonna work.
No,
What?
no.
They just took themselves completely out of the element and not responsible or accountable. Doesn't work.
Well, then, so what you have is you have a bunch of, non-diversity in the management team, right? And then you see that all the diversity is the lower level. And what does that say to them?
Yeah,
It says that they can't move up, that
right.
they're never going to get to that leadership spot. You have to hire diversity into your senior management team, not just manager level,
Yeah,
executive team, I should call it.
yeah, yeah. And developing those all the way up. I know that's what you all have been doing, is you're not in a rush. You're like, no, because see, when you think about your industry and you think about life sciences, right? Biotech and all of that. You want people that understand and get the business, and your business in particular. And so I really like your strategy of developing them so they get the business, they understand the culture, and you don't have to just train culture and business and do all of that, try to anyway, and infuse that into someone who won't get it just for the sake of plopping someone in and checking a box. That's clearly not you're not even at all interested, and I applaud you for that. It's really about developing the pipeline and making sure people understand the business and the culture, and that you can, um, have success, sustainable success somewhere, throughout your organization, your operation. So I certainly applaud that, because that takes courageous, I think, leadership, when in a time people are feeling pressed to just plop and sprinkle, and it's not sustainable. These folks, 99.9% of the time, they're not successful because the rest of the organization isn't ready for that.
Right.
So
And it needs to be right, right? If you hire the diverse person and they're not qualified for that job, and you don't set them up for success,
yeah.
that's also going to have a negative impact on diversity in your organization.
Yeah, it'll leave a bad taste because people will say,
Yeah.
well, there, we tried it, it didn't work.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not just the person, it's the organization being ready, the leadership being ready, awoke, or whatever we're saying these days, and then the person being ready and being the right person. Because the talent, you've proven it, the talent is out there, but you got to immerse yourself in other cultures and in other environments to be able to make that talent aware that you are an employer of choice and that you're hiring and you a great place to work for them.
And then
So
you
go
got
ahead.
to lean in a little bit too, right? Like, you
Mm,
need to take care of them. You need to, you and every time you make a hire, you're investing in them, and you're investing, and that's investing in the organization. So you've got to make sure that they're successful.
yeah,
Give
yeah,
them the opportunity, and give them the times to shine, and let them take on something that's a stretch for them,
yeah,
um, because they'll make it,
yeah,
but you got to also back them up
yep.
and make sure that they don't get scared.
hmm And I think, you know what? Remember when we first started working together and you said, we were talking about the company, and I'm always sensitive to CEO founders because it's, we refer to the company as a baby. And
My
we
baby.
talked about whether or not, you know, you said, Pam, I can handle it if you tell me my baby is ugly, but I just need to know, how my baby is doing. And I'm telling you, it's all I've been talking about is when I talk to clients is okay, my job is to come in and tell you, what's happening with your baby. And if your baby is ugly, I need you know that you can handle that. And I really appreciated that because you were willing to hand over something that was so near and dear to you to say, tell me what's happening. Tell me if I'm missing something and what we need to do to make it better, to make it right. And I think that takes courageous leadership to be able to hand your baby over and have somebody inspect it and not get super defensive and oh, that's not my company. I mean, it was a real eye-opening and refreshing, I think, experience to have. That's why I wanted to have you on the show. I said people have to meet Brandy. So what would you say? What advice do you give to folks who either want to move up or become entrepreneurs? That's like a loaded question, and you take whichever one you want first. But I have HR folks and entrepreneurs and wannabe entrepreneurs and wannabe HR leaders and wannabe CEOs and wannabe in the C-suite folks who watch. And what insight and tips do you share?
Well, I think that anybody who's going to be an entrepreneur, it's a scary thing to do, right? When you quit that company to start your own.
Hmm.
And I think the biggest advice I would give anybody who is going to take something like that on is to have a tribe.
Hmm.
Have the people behind you that are going to lift you up. And I know it's not just me, that insecurity that we get, right? The imposter,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
that, I can't do this, can I do this? Am I worthy? Why would they follow me? You know,
Hmm.
but having my husband
Hmm.
who champions me every step of the way and having my tribe of successful, brilliant, um, female leaders that I lean to when I get insecure or I need advice. Having that backbone behind me to lift you up, you need that when you're going to jump off that cliff. And
Yeah,
you need those people, right? So really having a good foundation. It sounds a little bit close cliche, but I could not have done it
yeah, yeah. Is
without
it
it.
is it your tribe? Because people always want me to ask the question around mistakes and not that what mistakes you've made. I mean, that's totally up to you. But
Oh, I've made
is it
tons.
your tribe? Yeah, talk about mistakes and is it your tribe that it sounds like your tribe helped you, but that's the biggest thing that keeps people from wanting to move up and move forward and to really make that jump, make that leap is the fear of making mistakes, the fear of failure. How do you overcome that? What do you do?
I think like every entrepreneur or every person, every human, right? We
Mhm,
have a tendency to get in our own way
mhm, mhm.
because there's something that we're afraid of.
Yeah, yeah,
And I have gotten in my own way so many different times because I was scared.
yeah.
And if I look at all the big mistakes that I've made,
Mhm.
you know, I make 100 decisions a day, right? Some are big or some are small. Not all of them are going to be the right decisions,
Right.
right? And it's those big decisions, it's those that next big deal or the next big decision that I make, those are the hardest ones to make.
Yeah.
But then once you make it,
Mhm.
usually you're pretty close, or at least that whatever part of that decision that was the mistake, you learned enough from it to go after the next one, and then you've earned the courage to do it again, because did the mistake really hurt that much?
Right.
It's like when you asked your first, asked a boy on a date, right? You
Yeah.
asked a boy on a date
Yeah.
and you were scared out of your mind, right? What's the worst thing they can say? No?
No. Yeah.
Yeah. And whatever. They
Hmm.
said no. I'll ask that guy over there. He's really cute.
He's way cuter anyway, right?
one wasn't really my style anyway.
So that's really, that is so revelatory because you're right. It's like you almost have to you need the know to be able to have the courage to ask the next time. And then you realize, oh, that's like my son who's 19 who got his first COVID shot, was a holdout. And he said, oh, he was scared. He didn't know, I don't want it. And they finally, we went and got it. And he said, oh, that was nothing. I thought it
Yeah.
was going to be. And that's really what happens, as you branch out and you grow and you develop. It sounds like you got to be willing to take some risks.
Yeah, it's the Brene Brown, right? I know you love her too.
I do. I
You
do.
know what she says? She says you got to get in that arena because if you're not in that arena,
Yeah.
right?
It's exhilarating and scary and all exciting, all wrapped, and it's exhausting at times. But you wake up the next morning and you're like, yeah, I'm so glad I did this.
Leading up to something big, you know, when you get to that point where you're so nervous, you feel like you're going to throw up,
Well,
right? That's where you need to be because once you get over it, once you get through it,
yeah.
I did it.
Oh, I know.
I did it and I can do it again.
Mhm.
And look, I that's where you grow.
Yes.
That's where you take those big leaps is when you're so nervous you have to go to the bathroom 5 times before it happens.
Right, right. You know what? I can't remember who said this quote, but and it stuck with me over the years. And they said there are a lot of people who are up against the line. Like they are just waiting. You're nervous because you're looking at them and they're looking at you, and you get all nervous and you feel like you're gonna throw up. And he said, and then something happens, somebody crosses the line and they realize, hey, wait a minute. There aren't that many people over here. It's not that crowded across the line. Can
Yes,
do this.
you know, I love it. Yes. And you
Yeah.
realize those other CEOs at the table, right? Or the other, you know, those that boardroom that you just walked into,
Yeah,
they're not that much smarter than me,
that's right.
right?
That's right. It's like they just crossed a line. That's what they did. So
Yes.
now, so we start building our tribe, as you said, it's looking at other line crossers and not having conversations with people who are afraid because those folks will hold you back. They
Yeah.
will tell you what you can't do. Women don't do that. HR
Uh,
leaders can't do that. They're not this. You're not ready. You don't have enough degrees or education or experience. And, Brandy
mm.
Bullen, you've proven them wrong, my friend.
I love the cross the line. I'm going to use that analogy all the time. That is it. It's it. Who else has crossed that line? Who's willing to cross the line?
That's right. That's right. There's plenty of room. So good.
Hmm.
Any final thoughts or questions for the folks who are watching?
You know, I don't know. You know, I think that it's been a weird couple years, you know. So, you
Yeah.
know, you mentioned you know, when we first started talking, it was right after the George Floyd, and you know, that was a really
Yeah.
impactful time in our lives, and I guess I would say, you know, part of me part of me hopes that some of these things never happen again, but at the same time, um, we're crossing some lines.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you keep crossing those lines, my friend, ladies
You
and
too.
gentlemen. It has been a pleasure speaking with Brandy Bullen of Sequoia Consulting Group. Thank you so much for breaking up your time with your family in the middle of your workday. Thank you again, and I look forward to continued connecting on the other side of this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pam. Always a pleasure.
All right, my dear. Thanks.
Thank you.